ahead of our election panel, but this conversation is going to be a little bit easier, I think, and hopefully an inspiring chat. Well, we know it is, and that's because we have the legendary Sam Whitelock with us. Let's give Sam a big round of applause. Keep clapping for yourself, mate. It's good. It's a good start.
Yeah.
Sam is one of our most capped All Blacks with 153 international tests under his belt. He's also, of course, an ambassador for Farmstrong, and today Farmstrong is launching this incredible new resource for the horticulture community. It's called Live Well, Grow Well, Growers on Being Farmstrong, and it's full of incredible stories about real growers, real families up and down the country, some of the challenges that they face, but also how they overcome them. So, Sam, great to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming along. I know you guys have got a busy day today, and I'm sure there'll be some good questions coming my way.
Absolutely, and if you've got questions for Sam, you can jump in our app, click on this session and put them in. We'll come to some of those a little bit later. Tell us about your morning today.
Yeah, so a little bit busy today. As all growers in the room, you'll know that it was a big frost today, and you'll be watching the weather apps just like us. But I've picked up just under 50 calves this morning at the family dairy farm in Manawatu, so it was a bit of a mad rush to get them picked up from the paddock, get them back into the shed, get them fed before I made the way down here. So I was a little bit worried I was going to be late, but the staff and I managed to get the job done in time.
Nice one. Well, we're glad to have you here. How different does your life look today to how it looked 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, very different. The key thing being having 3 children. So we've got 3 of them. Fred's 9, Iris 7, and Penelope's almost 5. So we're about a month away to having all 3 at school. Hannah, my wife, is very excited about that, and so am I. So that alone, completely different to what it used to look like. But for us, we've been on a pretty full-on journey the last 5 years. So finished playing here in 23. Went to France for a year, played for Section Paroise in Pau in the southwest. Was awesome, loved that time, the food, the produce, the people, the culture, the language. Went back to our farm in Hawke's Bay. We were there for 2 years running it, but we've actually just sold that and gone back to the family farm. So completely different to what rugby was, but definitely taken a lot of those skills and things from there and then just brought them forward into my now farming life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a theme that runs across both rugby and horticulture is pressure and the skills that we need to deal with pressure. Tell us about your relationship with pressure from a young age. How did you feel about it when you were growing up?
Pressure for me was always there, and it was something I didn't really realise until being a little bit older now. So there's 4 boys, there's 5 years separating all 4 of us, so the pressure was always there. Probably for me being number 3 or 4, my older 2 brothers are a little bit bigger and stronger. I'm not as tall, and my little brother exactly the same. So I probably learnt around pressure and where to push and where to pull back from them. If I annoyed them too much, as any middle brother does, probably had to run pretty fast, but wasn't fast enough. So good old sibling rivalry. And the little brother was nicknamed man-child at school, so he was bigger and stronger too. So that pressure was always there, and that's just something that we probably took through primary school, high school, and then into our playing days of playing professional rugby. And having all 4 play for the Crusaders together was an amazing experience as a family, and I know the whole extended family loved it as well, so pretty cool to get to experience that together. But pressure was always there from the young age till now.
Do you think some people are more naturally inclined to deal with pressure in a healthy way, or are these skills that all of us can learn?
I think they definitely learn, and for myself, I think we kind of learnt things without realising it at a younger age. And you know, putting 4 boys, anyone here with kids, especially boys, knows that they can be challenging. They want to wrestle, they want to have, boy things, they want to destroy things, because that's just what boys do. So we kind of learned that we had to do it together, and Dad and Mum did an awesome job, and pretty cool now looking back at our kids, seeing what Mum and Dad did for us. So we always got told it didn't matter what we were doing as long as we did it together. So we'd almost get in more trouble if someone was misbehaving versus all 4 of us misbehaving. And as you had one of the staff members asked me the other day about when we locked out the babysitter from home, because he now lives in that house. So yeah, it was quite an interesting full moment, explaining the story about how we all had to bike down and apologise in age order from George all the way down to Luke.
Sounds like you guys were a handful. So when we talk about pressure, one of the phrases that you use is travelling towards the pressure. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, travelling towards it or walking towards it. And I think with that is timing was everything for myself. I was lucky enough to be selected in the All Blacks in 2010. Anyone with some rugby knowledge knows in 03, 07, the All Blacks weren't successful, and they probably had the team to be successful at the World Cup. So I was lucky enough to get there, and everything was done on mental skills around what are we going to do with pressure, because before that stage, everyone had talked around, it's just another game. It's 80 minutes, we're judged on the 80 minutes. But that wasn't reality, and it's exactly the same in farming, as growers, as people. You've got to understand what you're judged on, but also what tools you have to address the pressures that you're under. And that was probably the first thing that we had to identify as, yes, there is pressure here, it is different. This is the game that will knock us out of a tournament or will keep us there for another week. So we did a lot of work on that, and I go back to timing was really critical for myself, because I was 21 at the time and got to really hone in on the mental space of the game, because at that stage, internationally, everyone was roughly the same size, skill level, fitness. So the big area was the mental space, and that's where I think I was really lucky. I had some awesome people set me up to put some tools in place to deal with pressure. But first the thing was acknowledging it was there.
We had Gilbert Anoka with us yesterday, and he shared some incredible tools which I'm sure are very familiar to you. What are some of the tools that have helped you the most in your performance journey to handle that pressure when it comes on?
I think the first thing I like doing is, it doesn't matter if you're playing a All Blacks game or if you're home with the kids, if you're out on the farm and it's a Friday night, pressure's always there. So it's understanding what you're normally like as a person. So I know for myself, under pressure, if anything, I might go quiet. So understanding that, so being really aware of that. So under pressure, am I going quiet? If I am, I know, right, I've got to actually stand up, big shoulders, take a breath, reset myself. And there's some cool techniques. I'm sure Gilbert went through a few of them with you guys yesterday. For me, I like wiggling my toes. The key thing being is the opposition couldn't see it. So I didn't want to do something that the opposition could see and then go, right, Sam's under pressure here, let's turn the blowtorch up a bit more. So there's all these little things, and from where I was as a 21-year-old to what I am now as 37, the growth and development that's happened from then to now is massive. What used to probably wind me up when I was 21 is completely different now, having 3 kids. And kids are very humbling. They know what buttons to push and they know how to do that. But yet again, you just go back to those key tools you have, and that there is a good way for me to get to where I need to go to.
When you think about the world that your kids have been born into, and you think about younger athletes who are just starting their professional sporting careers today, or coming into the workforce or coming into horticulture, do you think they face more challenges than we did when we were growing up or when we were coming into the professional world?
I think they face different challenges. I wouldn't say more or less, and I look at it like this. On the dairy farm, the family dairy farm that we now own, what was done with my grandfather, him buying a tractor, that tractor was open cab, didn't have a loader, all those things, and that was the newest technology. That was like state of the art compared to where it is now. You can pretty much drive it without touching anything. So the challenges of learning to drive a tractor there versus what it is now are totally different. Not saying it's easier or harder, it's just different. And I think looking at it in the rugby sense, I think it's really hard to compare players through eras because it's different. My grandfather was lucky enough to play in 53, 54, but they were the last team to travel to the United Kingdom by boat. So it took them 3 months to get there. Where when the All Blacks go to South Africa, they're going to go first class, they'll be there within a day and a half. So it's just totally different. Not saying one's right or wrong, it's just different.
And so how do we have empathy with different generations, and particularly younger generations that face pressures that maybe we're not familiar with?
I think technology is the obvious one. My kids watching TV, they know how to find that favourite program in about 3 clicks of the button, where for myself I'm trying to look at it and they're saying, Dad, just give it here, it'll be way quicker. And so I think that's a positive, but at the same time, having the ability to, I call it the old school way, the old school values, understanding and looking at something with your own eye rather than trusting technology. So you've got to make sure that you can deal with it when you're out in the wind and the rain and you see it, rather than going, hey, I've got time here to research it, and take time to use technology to get you the answer.
When you're out on the field, and I'm talking about the rugby field here, there are so many distractions, whether it's what's happening with the weather, the noise in the stands, other sensory things that you feel. And a key part of being an athlete is being able to shut out all of those distractions. What were some of the techniques that you learnt on the field that you've also been able to bring into your business and your farming life on shutting out those distractions?
Those distractions are there all the time, and I think the obvious one is the crowd. And everyone says, oh, how do you hear anything when there's 100,000 there? And 100,000 people watching is actually easier than 10 people watching you. We played a North vs South game here in Wellington, and there was no one in the crowd through COVID, but you could hear everything from your teammate to the opposition to the referee. You could hear the opposition's calls, and I actually found that harder because there was more distractions. When there's noise is just noise. You can't hear the individual word or the snipe or whatever someone's saying to you or about you. So I think every scenario is different because each has different stimulus to kind of take you away from where you need to be. The obvious one is a big screen. If there's maybe a yellow card, or is it a try, no try, the thing that I learned is the easiest way to do is actually not look at it. So for me as a player, I'd always make sure I was in the huddle not looking at it, because you get sidetracked on what you actually needed to do. As a captain, it was different. I had to look at it because I knew everyone else would get sidetracked if they were looking at it. Where's the sun coming into the huddle? Is it into my eyes or is it into your eyes? And it's the same with team meetings on the farm or any of those things. You've got to go, right, how do I take those things away that are going to sidetrack you from doing your job and making it as easy as I can for you?
So really success comes down to focus, right? Your ability to focus when it really counts. What does focus look like for you now in a farming context?
For me, focus, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You've got to know when, right, this is the time to push, and that's the season we're in at the moment with calving cows. But then also it's got to know when to switch off and get away from it. In the rugby world, the first couple of years of my career, when I was kind of 24, 25, I really tried to just live, breathe everything rugby, and it was too much, and I think my form actually suffered because of it. When I actually had time to get away, and I was lucky enough to go to Lincoln Uni and study, so for me it was really nice to step out of the rugby world and step into a different world, and it actually gave me a better balance. So when I was at training, or when I was on the rugby field, I actually wanted to be there. Not that I'd fallen out of the love of the game, but it was just, it had a better balance. And then having kids was a nice one too, because when you're home, you can't just say to the kids, oh, wait a moment, I'm just going to recover and do those things now. It's actually bringing them with you, and getting that balance is a really nice thing. So I think that was one thing that I've definitely learnt. Especially with farming, I can't just be all about farming. I've got to get the balance right between all of it. So getting my breaks and booking them in is definitely critical for me.
Yeah, and balance is a really interesting word, right? Because farming is not a 9-to-5 job, and as much as we talk about balance, there are just realities that we have to deal with day to day. So you mentioned taking breaks, for example. What are some of the other ways that we can make sure that we have balance, or whatever the equivalent would be, between our work life and our family life, our recreation time?
So my wife, we met first day of Lincoln Uni. She sat down next to me, so she chased me is what I tell everyone. But she worked at Greystone in Canterbury there in the vineyard, so she studied viticulture and did all that and really enjoyed it until she got pregnant with the kids and started spewing and hasn't been back since. But they had some awesome things and awesome principles they used to do in the vineyard. So the manager would know everyone's birthday and they'd have an opportunity to kind of put an order in what their favourite cake was, so whether it was vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, whatever. So that's something that we did in rugby as well, but that's something we're doing now on our farm to make sure we just take a little moment, and it doesn't need to be long. We can all sing happy birthday, blow out the candles, we all get a piece of cake. I'm not sure of many people here that don't like cake. I'm sure everyone has a sweet tooth to a point. So it's just taking those little moments, and for us, we don't have a massive group of guys on the farm. We're 7 or 8 for most of the year, but it's just an opportunity to stop. But we'll also do other things, like we had a good catch-up, good dinner before calving started, but we'll also do one after, so we know, right, this is the calm before the storm, and then at the other end it's the, right, we got through that, right, what are we going to, and how are we going to reset, and then look forward to getting into mating and carrying on.
Gilbert talked yesterday about the importance of joy and not losing those moments of joy. What was that like in the All Blacks environment, and what does it look like for you now on the farm, taking time to actually celebrate your wins, not just focusing on the next thing, the next goal?
Rugby players are horrific at this because you have your calendar, you finish that game, and the first thing you hear is, right, we'll recover, we've got to travel, all those things. Conrad Smith was awesome for myself. He was a pretty influential player in a number of ways, but he would always say to guys, just stop, enjoy it. He was probably the best traveller of the All Blacks. So on his day off, if he had an hour to spare, he'd go down to the local market, or he'd go to the local museum, go to Te Papa, and actually get out and experience some of the cool places we were. For myself, yet again, early in my career, I was just so, right, I've got to perform and do this. I actually probably missed the opportunity to see a little bit more of the world that we travelled to. And, you know, there's still places I've been to, like I've been to South Africa 30 plus times, but I have never actually been there on holiday and actually enjoyed what it has to offer for multiple days. But I've still done some amazing things in South Africa. So it's getting that little bit of balance and making sure you're enjoying the journey, and that joy is a key word, because when you go out there and you can see, you know, lions walking around, and it's pretty amazing. It's not something until you finish, you sit back and go, how amazing was that?
And is that how you feel when you look back at your career? How amazing is that? What are the emotions that come to mind when you think about those many, many years on the road and all the things that you achieved?
Yeah, the odd time on a good frost like this morning, you're like, oh, it'd be easier to be a rugby player right now. But no, I'm definitely enjoying being on the other side. Started playing rugby when I was 3, 4, or whatever it was, and finished at 35, so I gave it a pretty good nudge. But I still don't think it's sunken in, some of the things that we got to achieve. And I think with time, it'll probably come out more, and talking to and reconnecting with people that I haven't seen for a while. We connected up with the 2011 and 2015 World Cup winning sides earlier in the year, and that was just such a cool moment. I hadn't seen some of those guys since the final, but really nice. Like, you walk into a room and it's like nothing's changed. It's kind of like catching up with cousins or school friends that you've just been through so much with, that you actually start reminiscing and going, oh, how cool was that? And their memories and their stories spark memories and stories in your own mind, and it's pretty cool. I found the next 2 weeks after, I just had this massive smile on my face because I'd connected with people that we did some amazing things together with.
If you were still in the All Blacks today, you'd be jumping on that plane with Gilbert to Africa. Is there any part of you that misses the lifestyle, the camaraderie, the pressure?
Yep, 100%. I would... like, I'm 37 now, I've got a few ligaments that probably aren't there anymore, and a little bit of arthritis kicking in somewhere. But I think the team going to South Africa at the moment haven't been there for, I think, 30 odd years as a pure tour. These are the ones as a player you want to go and test yourself. against the world champs at the moment. Even saying that still hurts. We won't go there. So for me, I just think if you can't be excited as a rugby player at the moment in this country, the All Blacks are going to South Africa, our greatest foe, like the history through it. Like I still remember Fitzy slamming on the ground when we won that game, which was the first away series, the flower bomb, Gary Knight. Like I kind of know all that history, and I really enjoy understanding that history and actually passing that history and that knowledge on to the next guys. So hopefully they're talking about those things, because they're going to be away for a long time. It's going to be challenging, not only the fact of the playing side, it's loved ones at home, young families, etc. So just like everyone else, I'm the world's biggest critic on the couch, but I keep that opinion pretty close to my chest, or my wife might hear the odd bad word come out, but that's about it.
Did you have to detox when you ended your professional rugby career? What was it like adjusting to civilian life?
I wouldn't say detox, but I think that's actually quite a nice way to put it. I might steal that. So the rate of depression, anxiety, financial hardship, divorce for rugby players, the longer you play, it goes through the roof. So the average career expectancy for a rugby player is 4 years. For myself, I started professionally as 18 and went through to 35. So for me, I'm probably the at-risk case. But I was lucky because I had two older brothers that had already gone through retirement and transitioning back into the real world. And the biggest thing is everyone's got a phone on you. Same as a rugby player, it's put into your calendar. This is where you've got to be. This is what you've got to wear. This is what you've got to do. All of a sudden, because we went back to farming, which is our own business, I can get out of bed at 4 a.m. if I want. I can sleep till 10 o'clock. I can be in charge of my own life. And that does take some time to adjust. Ali Williams actually said it to me. He said, look, most rugby players kind of go into the wilderness for 2 years and then they kind of come back out after 2. I think I've adjusted pretty well, but have some amazing people around me. Obviously, Hannah, my wife, has been there since that first day of uni, so she's seen the highs, the lows, and we've just done it together. And I'd like to say it's been pretty good, but anyone close to me will probably know more than I.
A lot of sports people end up tying up their personal identity with their work, and it's understandable why that happens. I think that happens in farming as well, particularly if you're from a farming family. It's in your DNA, it's part of who you are. Does that come with risks from your perspective, or how do we make sure that we are not too enmeshed with what we do for our work?
I think it's, to answer your question bluntly, yes, I think there is a risk in that. For myself, I've always tried to, I still see myself as the country kid. I still kind of see the rugby accomplishments over the year and kind of going, oh, is that me or not? But I think I'm very lucky in a sense because I've got such good family, such good mates. If I was getting ahead of myself, they'd cut me down pretty quick. Yet again, 3 brothers don't mince words too much. But I think that's the cool thing, because rugby's what I used to do. It's not what I am or who I am. But it's definitely a part of me. But it's kind of the footy, family and farming have kind of been the 3 constants in my life since I can remember. So, yeah, I'm not a rugby player now, but love going down and helping my son under 10s at High School Old Boys where I played. So it's quite cool to see history repeating. He's absolutely mad keen, wants to be a fullback, but he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to get pushed into the forwards. He's probably a bit like me, a bit slow. I mean, not as fast as his mother. So yeah, it's really cool seeing those things happen, and I get to see it through my own eyes, but I can kind of see what Mum and Dad saw a little bit of as well.
You've been an ambassador for Farm Strong for many years now. Why did you decide to throw your weight behind this cause?
Yeah, one massive reason, and I think that's the cool thing around this book, all these stories from people like yourself in the room of what they've been through and how they got through, what they'd do differently, what they did, and advice they'd pass on. So I think that's a really cool thing. So I really encourage everyone to have a read. When you guys go, there's a book for everyone here, so please take it, please pass it on. But the reason I wanted to get involved is Mum and Dad went through a really hard time themselves. So they had salmonella go through the dairy cows at home, and with the vet's advice, Dad was told move them from paddock to paddock every, say, half an hour to an hour, and whatever couldn't get up, just leave it behind. And Dad said, what do I do with them? He said, well, just start shooting them and that'll stop the spread. So Dad and Mum went through this massive challenge, and Dad had to shoot roughly 180 of the milking cows, a whole lot of young stock, etc. So Mum and Dad had 30 years of support. They had uncles and aunties down the road, grandparents down the road, so they had all the support around them. They had 30 plus years at the time of farming knowledge. They had a really good support with the staff, etc. But even then, Mum didn't leave the house for 3 weeks. Dad, who normally is an over-communicator, if anything, borderline annoying, went quiet. So for me, I didn't know what was happening. It wasn't until my little brother came home from his gap year in England, and he rang straight away and said, "You got to come home." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Look, this has happened because they just stopped communicating. They didn't tell us what was happening." But the thing that kicked in for me is, if Mum didn't have all the support, they didn't have the knowledge of, the 30 years of farming, what could have happened? No one knows. So for me, having that story, and then some of the awesome resources of what they did and what all these people were doing, for me, why wouldn't you be involved with it? And, we've all got a story of someone that's been through a hardship, whether it's a weather event, whether it's a personal matter. So it's just helping out, and that's something that hopefully me helping out with Farm Strong that we've seen, and it's been very, very humbling, and I know the guys in the room are really proud of where Farm Strong is, but the cool thing is where we're going is going to be even better, and I look forward to everyone in the room jumping on the website, having a look, understanding what we do, and I know there'll be things in there that you guys can take back to your businesses, etc., and it'll definitely help.
Absolutely. We've got a few questions coming in. Jacob asks, how do you cope post-rugby? And he's asking about the support that you've had. Have you ever had to reach out for additional support beyond the mental skills that you've learned through rugby? No, not officially, I suppose, but my wife is pretty good at sometimes saying to you what's up, and she knows that I'm kind of getting a bit grumpy or whatever, and I might give her 30 seconds to a minute of a dump, and then she won't answer, she won't kind of want to go into too much more, and then she'll kind of come back 15 minutes later and be like, "You feel better?" And you're like, "Yep, no, it's got to just need to get it off my chest." And the way I've had it explained to me, and I think it's a really good terminology, is like, if you're going to turn the tap on, turn it all the way on, get the moan out or the complaint or whatever it is, turn it all the way off so then you can go deal with it. So my wife's pretty good at identifying when I need one of those dumps. She used to do it with rugby all the time, and she's pretty smart in that sense. And what are the basic habits that you rely on today, now that you don't have the nutritionist and the physio and the mental skills coach and all those people around you? What are the basics that you rely on to stay well and stay healthy?
I think the obvious one is diet. Very lucky and privileged with who I got to spend 20 plus years with around diet, nutrition, water. Some of those habits you pick up are things that I still do now. One weird one, some people probably think it's a little bit weird. I think it's weird. I had a lot of trouble with my ankles, so even now, I'm not a rugby player, but I still brush my teeth on one foot, and it's just to get extra rehab in. So hopefully, if I do roll it again, it's not going to destroy what's left. It'll just give me a little bit more strength. So some of those habits that I started when I was 17, 18 are still going on now, but that's just one example of it.
And finally, you're only 37 at the end of all of that and everything that you've achieved, so you've got many, many years ahead of you. What are the things that you look forward to? Or what are the things that excite you when you think about the decades to come?
Yeah, there are definitely a few things. The obvious one is kids. Being away as a rugby player, sometimes you're away for 4 to 6, 8 weeks in a row, and you might not see loved ones. So really enjoyed watching the kids do cross-country athletics, doing the dance recitals. So I'm really enjoying that, but I'm looking forward to, with the farm, where we can take it. Mum and Dad have done an awesome job, and now it's our chance to hopefully make it better, grow, and sort a few little things out, but Mum and Dad have done an awesome job so far, so we're just trying to copy what they've done and hopefully put our own spin on it.
Sam, it's been awesome to have you here. Thank you for your support of the conference and of Farm Strong as well. This is a fantastic resource. It's called Live Well, Grow Well. And we also have Jared, Nige and Chrissy from the Farm Strong team here today. Make sure you have a yarn with them, and they are in the room as well to give you copies of these if you're leaving, or if you're sticking around, make sure you grab one. Round of applause for Sam.